I am inside of a gym that I want to say 4 years ago, I dreamed of having enough money to be in. Okay? So, 4 years ago, we were in pretty deep financial doo-doo. And some of it was our fault, some of it was not. Some of it was prioritizing the wrong things, and some of it was things we couldn't help. This particular day was something we couldn't help, and that was car trouble. We sunk over 10,000. I had two small kiddos with me at the time, and nowhere to go and no money. So I remember just getting an Uber, like, not even far, maybe not even yeah, I had to have gotten an Uber because this guy was really out in the middle of nowhere. So I just kind of got an Uber into town, basically, and we just wandered around. And I remember walking by this gym, and just, it looked so clean and beautiful, and I was just like, man, someday I'm gonna have money to go to that gym. Which is, it's weird because this isn't even my neighborhood, guys. This is like, I won't say geographically because I don't know, I'm a little too weird for that, but this is not where I usually go. But 4 years later, God totally removes me from where I think I'm gonna have success, where I think I'm gonna make money, where I've ended up frustrated because I was idolizing something that wasn't God. I was idolizing a business and a specific solution, and God didn't want me there anymore. And so it failed. It blew up in my face. I don't want to name the business necessarily because I know and respect so many people who do so well. I was in a network marketing business, and that's a whole nother can of worms because I actually think that's a really great industry when you listen and do things right, which I did not do. But I did not expect today to be a day where I would get to, God is just bringing me full circle. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things He's been doing in my life and how he moves in your, maybe if you can see some of your story in my story, then to God be the glory. Because not only did He bring me to this gym, and I'll get to how I got here in a minute, okay? Because it's not the way I expected, and it's not necessarily the way you expected, but not only that, but today, the reason I'm in this part of town is I went to a book signing by a local author who I happen to know her daughter, really good friends with her. The author's name is Sarah Ella. She wrote a book called The Glass Across the Sea. I don't have the book on me right now. So I will probably do a podcast review on that after I finish reading it. I'm super excited for that. But I didn't recognize it until I walked in the door. I almost didn't go tonight because I have kids. I have a lot of things I'm prepping for. Going to retreat this week for Revelation Wellness. There's a lot of things that I'm preparing for. And I was like, God, I don't know. It just feels really selfish. Like, because I'm really just going because I'm excited and I'm going to meet this woman. And I've heard all about her from her daughter. And anyway, it's all the way in Tempe. And so I go all the way there, and it's in a bookstore that my husband and I visited the very first week that we moved to Arizona. And that first week was our first month, maybe. It might not have been the first week, but in that first year, there was so much poverty. There was so much brokenness. There were so many relational issues going on. There was depression, there was anxiety, there were a lot of things that we will unpack eventually. And to walk back into that bookstore in a completely different space from the perspective of someone who's walking in with a book I got to buy, walking in to meet this author, not from a place of just feeling totally lost and confused about life, but knowing exactly who I am and whose I am. I wasn't looking for healing, okay, but God met me there. And I'm so grateful that he did. And then I had to record some stuff because now, 4 years later, I'm actually teaching fitness classes, okay? So I teach Go Fitness. I teach, right now I just teach circuit training, but I'm also training to teach my own class that I've been working on myself. It's a K-pop fitness class. I love K-pop. I always have enjoyed it, but now like getting to work out to it, I listen to it way more. And so I just looked up the nearest Mountainside Fitnesses. I'm not gonna lie, I actually drove to the one in Tempe, couldn't find parking, and wussed out and left because I get really anxious around like big, those giant corporate buildings that require you to like park in a garage deep down in the subterranean depths of hell. I just can't do it, guys. I'm not that person. And so I left. I was like, peace out, too complicated, left. And I looked at the next like mountainside that was kind of on the way to home. And so here I am. And I pull in and it all hit me, this memory of just standing outside, not having money to go buy food somewhere, even though it was mealtime, not having money to even just go, take my kids to anywhere, and definitely not money to walk into this really bougie gym. Had I thought about it, I should have like confidently faked my way into like a free pass or something. But guys, anxiety and fear tell you you're not worthy. And so I didn't even try back then. And now I get to work at a gym. So I work at Mountainside. And I'm so grateful I get to work here. I don't work at this location, but that gives me access to so many cool things that I never thought I would have access to. But I'm here. I'm in the place that one day I remember begging God, can I just be in a place in life? And am I financially to the place where I'm just like, money's flying out everywhere? I would say no. But the story gets better. God has paid the way to so many things. So this is really a time to introduce you a little bit to not only who am I, but also where I'm going. So even though, if you're still with me, here's the official intro. My name is Talon Prescott. I talk to the brave ones, and I forgot to do my little intro because I was so excited to do this. Maybe I'll edit it in. But I am a fitness instructor who is soon to be a fitness teacher, gospel preacher. This Sunday, I am driving up the mountain to Williams, Arizona to take Elisa Cuten's course on Revelation Fitness. And you guys, I'm going to tell you the story. I'm going to share some of my testimony up there on the mountain as well. But that was kind of the start of God pulling us out of poverty, financially, emotionally, physically, marriage-wise. There was so much poverty in my life. It was insane. I was putting all of my energy into a business that was a phenomenal business, but that I had no business being in. I had idolized it, and my husband had actually chosen to walk away from this business a year and a half ago. And I chose to stay. And I think I was asking God, I was like, at what point did this change? And he really brought to me the fact that we were no longer unified as a couple. And that really brought a lot of baggage with it. And so, I love and I bless everyone in the organizations that I was connected to. But for me personally, God spoke to me multiple times about teaching group fitness. He said, I think you would love this. I want to bless your heart. I want to give you this thing. And I kept telling him no. I actually had a chance to get my NASM certification for free. And I turned it down because I was so wrapped up in what I was doing and where I thought God was taking me, or what I was really bending into shape and naming it what God had told me to do. It was not what God told me to do. So fast forward a few months ago, like in June. So in March, we had a car wreck. Okay. Our car was totally paid off. We had insurance, got to care of it. I'm thankful. Might unpack that someday. And in June, I ended up dealing with some really heavy things in our family that took a lot of healing from, took a lot of struggle. I really pulled back from where I was in, what I was focused on doing financially, because I had to focus on some family things. And then in July, maybe August, I go to sleep and I have this, my timeline's a little off. So in May, I had this dream that I was teaching a group fitness class. I pictured it outdoors, but I also kind of didn't. You know how dreams are kind of trippy? Like, I wasn't really clear on all the details, but I was teaching a fitness class and there was a Bible. And I vividly remember waking up and hearing God. I don't usually hear God speak in words. I know that sounds weird, but for some people, I'm very visual. I typically converse with the Lord in images, and he knows me and he knows my needs. But this time is probably the third time in my life where I've heard his voice, and he said, "Talon, I've told you 3 times, this is the last time." And I was like, "Oh, yes, sir." So I immediately signed up for my NASM certification. Didn't know what I was doing, took the certification in 2.5 weeks. Don't recommend that unless you're a total nerd. But I was so on fire for doing what God said this time. And I didn't quit doing anything else. And I really didn't. He was very gentle with the process. He didn't immediately just, bang me over the head and tell me I was messing up and to do all. He very gently led me through this process. So I got a job as a group fitness instructor here in Mountainside, where it started to come full circle. And so I got a job at the gym that, interestingly enough, I did get to pay for coming to this gym as a member a couple of years ago. So God did provide in a season of plenty. Through the business that I was tied to at the time, I had the extra money to pay for the gym. So I had some connections here. I was familiar with the culture. I really loved the gym. And I decided to go for it. Well, after time, I got pregnant, baby number 4 happened. I took a break from the gym. So and financially our situation changed again for various reasons. And so I hadn't been going. So I got a job here though. God opened the door, even though I personally had 0 talent. I actually failed my first audition. And the manager was so kind. She gave me a call back after my audition, and I even told her, I remember just saying, "You know what, I can do better." Because I was so mad, because I totally just got nervous and bombed so bad. But this is how I know it was God, is because I got the job anyway. And then a few months later, God tells me, "You need to go to the food bank." And I was like, hell no, I don't. God is very patient with me. I'm a total hawk. So it is what it was. I didn't want to go to food bank. We literally lived off emergency food boxes for years. And to be totally transparent, the only reason we're not on food boxes now is because of the momentum going with this gym job. But prior to that, there was a season in the middle where we finally, after years, applied for WIC and food stamps because we didn't have the means. And while we're not completely off of those programs, I genuinely believe God is going to do that here in the next month or 2. We shall see. but I see his hand providing. So he told me to go to the food bank, and I was absolutely not. God, I have food in my pantry. Sure, we could, we're definitely still the place where free food is free food, but I don't need to go to the food bank. And he was like, no, you need to go to the food bank. And the reason I was mad about this is you can't just like show up to the food bank and go, hey, God told me to be here. Like this particular place, you had to set an appointment, and then by the way, this is beautiful. They pack a box for your family based on the family members you have, based on your needs. And then they have you come in and personally pick a couple of items. It's very beautiful. It's very loving and kind. And I'm grateful that they were there for my family during a time of need. But I didn't want to go because I didn't need it. So, but I obeyed. I called them. I set up an appointment, dragged my feet the whole way there. They had a big bad attitude on my part. And I pull into the driveway and I see kind of some bright orange out of the corner of my eye. And I'm just like, that's interesting. And something in me, I was like, oh, but there's a gym over there. I have my brand new shiny certification. And I'm like, okay, God, like maybe I'll check that out after I do up this whole food box thing. And I walk in and there's actually a woman there who needed help who only spoke Spanish. And none of the volunteers that day spoke Spanish. And so I thought maybe, okay, God, like I speak Spanish. Maybe this is why I'm here. So I help her. I didn't do anything huge. I just translated some things for her so that she could find what she needed. And I come out of this food bank, put the box, basically chucked the box of food in the back of my car. Still a little bit salty that God made me come do the walk of shame into the food bank. And I walk down and to this bright orange, and I see this big painted freedom. And I think to myself, either this is the hippy dippiest, yoga place ever, or this is Jesus. Why I thought that, I don't know, guys. You just kind of get a vibe with certain gyms. So I walk closer and I see freedom, and then I forget what the rest of the door says. I think it's something about hope and freedom. And it says Revelation Wellness, and something just hits me in the face of like that dream that I had teaching fitness groups. It just floods into me like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is home. And I literally screamed. And I'm not a screamer. Like, ask my family, I am not hugely expressive. Like, my mom, I love her to death. She's very expressive. I am not. I am usually the one in the corner with my opinions. I'm not like the quiet introvert, but I'm not big in my feelings. Although I think God's kind of building something in me, so who knows? And I scream out loud. I literally am like shaking this door, trying to say hello, like see if anybody's in there, like, hey, are you here? Are you here? And nobody's there, but I went in and I stood there and I called my husband and I went, babe, this is the dream I had. You remember that dream I told you about? Like, and he's like, yeah, I remember the dream because I had told him about it when I got the NASM certification. And it was Revelation Wellness. It was the headquarters in Scottsdale. And I literally, I knew in my heart that that's where I was meant to be. But I didn't know how I was going to get there because I immediately Googled all the things and I found out it cost $2,500 to get this certification. Your girl had nothing. Just did the walk of shame for a food box, y'all. Granted, I wasn't quite that broke, but God, like I said, I was a little bit, I wish I could say like there, I was just praise God, this is going to be great, God's going to provide. I was a little bit of a punk. I was like, all right, God, so you want me to do this Revelation Wellness thing. It looks beautiful. It looks great and all. You see my bank account? I got no money. And God's like, I know, baby. And I was like, maybe I should fundraise and do all these things. I actually did end up setting up a GoFundMe, wasted a whole bunch of time trying to make it look pretty. And I still, in the back of my head, heard God being like, sweetheart, I've got this. Relax. Did I relax? No. But I just let go. I didn't actually end up sending. I think I sent the GoFundMe to maybe like 5 people, and then I let it be. I was like, okay, God, I really feel like I'm supposed to just trust you after spending all that time. And I waited. Went on a couple Zoom calls, talked to some of the incredible ladies over at Revelation Wellness. And I actually this is important. I stepped out in faith before I knew it was all going to work out okay, because at that point, like I said, God was very gentle with me. I felt that prompt of, you need to let go of this other business, this other place that you thought you were supposed to be in, because you've been holding on to what I've been asking you to let go of. And that hurt, because I really had some incredible friendships and some incredible relationships there, even though deep down in my heart, I knew he was right. And it took me 2 full conversations to actually break away from that organization. And I still do some things, like I still haven't felt led to completely let go of taking care of the customers that I earned accounts with over the years. So I still do that. I might still post on my Instagram every once in a while, but ultimately I knew like that's not where God was taking me, even though it's where I wanted to be for so many years. It's not where he was taking me. And so I let go of that before the money came in for this new certification. I had no idea. I had no idea if I was going to make it or not. And ultimately what happened is the deadline came up for Revelation Wellness instructor training. They only do 1 training a year, guys. And I really felt like the Lord was saying, it's going to be this year. Just trust me. So I did. I let go. I waited. Hours before the closing call, I get a call from our lawyer. Remember how I mentioned a car accident back in March? Well, there was some legal stuff. There was some settlement situations going on. And our lawyer calls and says, hey, the check's cleared for 2 of your kids, because I guess the way it works is it's per person in the incident. And the dollar amount for those checks was almost identical to what I needed for this certification. You guys, if you are struggling with the spirit of poverty, I will say break it away in the name of Jesus of Nazareth. That has no place in your life. And that's what I had to do. Jesus did break that from me later, a few weeks after. But first he had to prove to me, and I hate that I have to say it that way, because my faith was still so small, even though I've walked with Yeshua for so many years of my life. But that is the truth, and I don't want to sugarcoat it or make it sound like I'm a great person of faith, because I have lost so much of the faith that I once had because of how many years we have struggled through poverty. He provided. Not only that, but once that came, the floodgates opened up. That's just one of the things that happened. After that, I had other people who contributed who would like to stay anonymous, so that I had above and beyond what I needed to pay for this certification, and also to pay for all my supplies, to pay for things like headphones. I didn't have headphones. To pay for equipment, like the equipment I'm recording on right now. That's all been paid for by people in my life who Jesus used to provide. I didn't ask anyone for money, to be clear. Aside from like the 5 people, by the way, the 5 people I messaged on GoFundMe to fundraise for Revelation Wellness, none of them responded. So I ended up deleting that page. So when I see Jesus paid it all, I mean, he literally paid the dollar. He didn't just pay for my spiritual salvation, he paid for my physical needs. And it has been a journey that I didn't expect. And so I'm getting ready for instructor training. I'm sitting here in a gym that I once prayed to be in. I have a fiction book at home that I get to read. It's the first fiction book I've bought in 5 years. And I got to meet an incredible author in a bookstore that I once wandered into, lost and broken and hungry. And Jesus brought me in this time with a full stomach, ready to meet a new friend, ready to just see what he had. And then to come into this gym that I once prayed to be in, and here I am by the grace of God. I just want you to know, whatever you are praying for, some of the things God's going to ask you to let go of, they are idols in your heart, but he's going to shower you with so much. Whether he physically provides like he did for me, or whether it's spiritual restoration or restoration in your marriage, when you give up the things that are standing between you and his generosity, he is going to break open the floodgates. And I'm experiencing that now. And not only that, but the healing I've experienced in these past months, the healing in our marriage, the healing in our spiritual life, the growth and the opportunities I've had to really get intimacy with the Lord like I never thought I could have all just blessing after blessing after blessing. And I don't even have a grand point for you. I don't have a pithy one-liner for Instagram. I don't have anything to leave you with except give your all to Yeshua, and he will give you his all. And they are unmatched. You are so loved. You are so cherished. Yeshua wants to be a bridegroom, the kind of husband who wants to bless you with all of his goodness. And he wants to bring you with him to his mansion. And he's going to give you a taste of that even here on earth, if you let him and if you wait with him. And if you're hearing me in a season of suffering, I just went through 8 years of physical, spiritual, emotional, relational poverty to get to this moment. So I hear your pain, and I just want you to hear me now. You are still loved, you are heard, and your time will come if you lean on him and listen to him. I will tell you that 7-year gap was only 7 years because I made it 7 years. The first 4 years, possibly 5, I could not control. I would have walked in 5 years of suffering, even if I did everything right. The last 2 years were on me. So lean in, and if you feel the prompting of the Holy Spirit to do something, even if it's something you don't want to do, trust him. It is from a place of love. It is from a place of relationship. It is from him. He is calling you to more. And I just wanted to share what he's done in my life tonight, in hopes that you will see where he is with you tonight. Be blessed. Be brave. Go fight the good fight. Shalom.